Welcome to the Quantum and Beyond podcast, where I make quantum physics personal to you. Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Quantum and Beyond podcast. As you can see, we're in a very different location today because I just wanted to be outside. And this is my favorite time of year. So it's fall here in the Northeast, and there's lots of things or lots of reasons why I love the fall. I love the change in the air. I love seeing the kids outside playing, because you can see that here in the park. I also love the change in the colors of the leaves. So on today's episode, I'm going to share a little bit of why the colors of those leaves change in the fall, just to give you a deeper appreciation for the beauty of quantum physics, as well as the beauty of being outside in the fresh air. Let's start with trees. They take in nutrients from the soil. And the way they do this, in general, is that there is bacteria that's in the soil, and that bacteria will take in nutrients from that soil, and once it gets the nutrients that it needs, it will release those waste products in the soil, but those waste products are actually food for the trees. And once the food for the trees is taken up into the trunk, it then will use that energy to grow leaves. Now, why would it do this? Because leaves are needed to perform photosynthesis. Now, photosynthesis is really interesting. You may have wondered, why are leaves green? The reason that leaves are green is because leaves contain these very specific molecules. These molecules are called chlorophyll. And there's other molecules as well that perform the same function. We'll get there. So chlorophyll is a molecule, but you may have learned about it as a pigment. And what happens is that as the sun sends its light to our planet, that light not only travels as a wave, it also behaves as a particle. That particle is called a photon. Now, photons are what we physicists call packets of light. Now, why is this important? So chlorophyll, we probably all know photosynthesis, right? The leaves absorb the color or absorb the light, and the leaves turn that light into energy for the tree so that it can survive. But there's a little bit more to it than that. Chlorophyll is made of molecules. Molecules are just collections of atoms that like to hang out together. The reason that's important is because molecules, of course, contain electrons. A lot of electrons. Some like to hang out close to the nucleus, which is positively charged, and some like to hang out further away. The electrons that hang out further away from the nucleus, they are the ones that get hit, for lack of a better word, by the photons. Remember those packets of light that we just talked about. Those packets of light that are hitting those electrons, that causes them to get excited. And once they get excited, they release energy. Kind of like if someone is dancing, right? They're moving around a lot, they're releasing energy. Same thing happens with the electron. That energy is then converted into chemical energy for the tree to be able to live, survive, and hopefully thrive.
And that resonates.
Fall is where it gets interesting. So in the fall, as we know, once we pass the summer solstice, the days get shorter and shorter here in the Northeast. And as the days get shorter and shorter, that means there's less and less light that our planet on this side is receiving during the day. Light that shines onto our planet, we receive all colors of the visible spectrum. And editing Latoya will insert the visible spectrum that I'm talking about. Basically, it's all the colors that we see. But we all together, they look white to us. Maybe even slightly yellow, but they're slightly yellow because the photons are hitting the air particles, which is oxygen and whatnot. I digress. So as the photons are coming to our planet and they are colliding with the electrons that hang out further away in the chlorophyll molecule, because there's less and less light for those leaves, for the chlorophyll to get excited from, the trees sense, for lack of a better word, that winter is coming. So we need to prepare. Chlorophyll, it takes a lot of energy for the tree to make chlorophyll. And so what it starts to do is it starts to produce less chlorophyll because it has other pigments or other molecules that can take its place that are less energy intensive so that the trees can still get their nutrients or really energy from the sun. So as the photon collides with the electrons that hang out furthest away from the nucleus of a chlorophyll molecule, like I said, those electrons get excited. And what's cool is when they absorb that energy, they're only absorbing certain colors. They're not absorbing all colors. You may want to take a guess what color it is that is not absorbed. But of course I'm going to tell you. It's green. So green will, lack of a better word, ricochet off of the electrons that are furthest away from the nucleus. And that photon, that part of the photon, ricochets off of the electrons from the chlorophyll and they collide with our eyes. And there's cones in our eyes that receive that light, and then our brain, it sends a message to our brain that tells us, oh, this is the color green. Back to fall, when there's less sunlight, that means there's less light, visible light, for example, that's reaching our planet. And because chlorophyll is energy intensive, the trees begin to produce less chlorophyll. But there's other pigments that can take its place. As there's less chlorophyll that reflects the green, the pigments that take its place, for example, carotenoids. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry, chemists and botanists. I'm not a chemist or a botanist. The carotenoid sounds very similar to carrot. Guess what color a carrot is? Orange. So what starts to take over for, depending on the plant, because different plants have different ratios of the different types of pigments or molecules that both absorb and reflect light. The carotenoids, what they do is they reflect orange. That is why we see orange in the fall. You may have seen yellow. That means that there are molecules that have taken over with photosynthesis, and those molecules do not absorb yellow light. Now, what does this have to do with quantum physics? Well, we know the how much energy each of the molecules receive and they emit. That equation was brought up by the physicist Max Planck. Max Planck, back in the 1900s, he was trying to determine the equation to describe light as a particle, like a photon. Once he finally figured out the equation, it is one of the many equations that we use today to describe the amount of energy that light has. And there's a whole energy spectrum. Editing me will insert that energy spectrum. The way our brains interpret part of that energy spectrum is colors or visible light. So that equation, I'll pop it in, and you probably may have even seen it as we've gone on our walk today. That equation is E is equal to H bar V. It's really not V, it's mu, but we don't need to get that granular. Mu is the Greek letter that represents the frequency. That's another video too.
Yeah, right.
Regardless, that's the equation where if you plug in a number to replace the mu or the V, that tells you how much energy, that tells you the numerical value of green, the numerical value of red, the numerical value of yellow. Just the fact that we can use equations to describe something as beautiful as photosynthesis, a part of it, because there's many other parts, but the fact that quantum physics is a lot of the reason we can appreciate plants, we can appreciate the beauty of trees and grass and being outside to touch that grass, is what makes fall even more special for me, especially after having completed my physics degree. I've always loved fall. It's my favorite season, but even more so now that I can map the beauty of a very simple equation to a beautiful process that we appreciate every year. It's the best. Anyway, thank you for coming on this journey with me today. Hope you enjoyed a tiny little tour of Prospect Park here in New York City. In my opinion, it's the best park. Sorry to the folks who actually love Central Park. Central Park's cool too. I just get lost in there and I don't like feeling lost. Thank you for joining me on this walk today. If you have any questions about anything I've said, anything you want me to slow down on, to talk more about, feel free to put them in the comments. If you enjoyed this content, put flowers in the comments. And it could be your favorite flower or just flowers in general. You may not have a favorite. I would love to learn a little bit more about you. And with that, I'm going to end today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of the Quantum and Beyond podcast. Hit like, subscribe, share, so that we can continue to build this quantum community together. This way? Yeah. And with that, have a good one and go be quantum.